Good morning. This is probably just a warm up one, so no one will ever see it. Maybe I'll keep it anyways, but I'll do it as a private. Anyways, today is the 27th of February 2025. Been a little while since I've been on. Crazy things just happen every day, and you know, I guess if I was getting paid to come on here more, I would do it. um, so many things I could go, so many avenues. Obviously, I do a lot on the politics. I've been doing a lot on it because it's what's going on in the world right now. And politics in America and now affecting Canada, Mexico, Panama, Greenland, European nations. What's going on in the war with Putin and Ukraine, but also in Gaza, Lebanon, Israel, like that whole area as well. How it's affecting like Egypt and Saudi Arabia's influence and Iran's influence and what the hell. well, I I get so frustrated because so much of this is solvable, but it's to the benefit of many that things aren't solved. That's actually how they make their money and keep their power. You know, if you're making the arms for the world, like America's one of the biggest, obviously, producers of arms, it pays to have wars because then they get used. And then they play the little game that they always do. It's like, oh well, we gave them all this money. Well, actually, you gave them old shells that you were going to decommission. You would have to pay to decommission them. So in many ways, this was like a win-win for you greedy little buggers. Let's sell them our stuff that we know is going to expire soon, and get them to owe us the money for it, and then we can create new ones because we need to refill our coffers with the new weapons. So you know, money, money, money. We're making money. We're getting money owed to us on ledgers. You know, and, just recently, Trump's trying to switch sides to Putin, and with the idea that they'll just divide Ukraine up between them because oh, America, we'll just take all their mineral rights, and he gave some quickly scratched letter and said, you do this right away and sign over 50% of all your nation's mineral rights. And he, what the hell's this? Like, no, it would have to be negotiated, and it has to be, even if I think it's a good deal, it still has to go through, our legislation and get approved. I mean, he doesn't own the products. He's just representing them currently as their leader. And he sees it that way, so good for him. But, you know, some hastily written thing, you got to sign this, or and then the pressure from Trump, you got to make this decision, next thing you know, he's got people sitting down with Putin to negotiate without Europe, without Ukraine, like the people that were invaded. And now he's denying that it was invaded, and his little henchmen that can't seem to have their own backbone because I guess they're greedy too, bought off obviously, they're all not answering the question. And what are you saying that Ukraine started this war? Putin invaded their country, like literally crossed their borders with their tanks and their army. For one country to be considered the invader, they probably have to do that. They have to physically go and try to take land of another country. That's what the word invader is. They invaded into other people's land. And well, yeah, but Ukraine's taking a little bit of Russia's land now. Yeah, but that's like 1 or 2 years into the war before they were able to get a foothold in parts that were backdoor, where Russians hadn't really defended because they didn't think they'd bother. They feared they'd keep all their fighting within the boundaries, which has also been really stupid. This whole war that way. Putin gets to say, "I can send stuff from my country into theirs and blow the shit out of their cities and kill innocents, regular civilians, but they're not allowed to shoot at me. Everybody, they can't shoot at me. Don't give them any weapons where they could shoot back." What is that? It's like the old Western days. You send two people out in the street to fight, and then one guy's got both his hands tied behind his back, and the other one just pulls his gun out and shoots him. That's basically what you're allowing this to happen. It's like maybe if a few of his towns had been hit, a few of his people would have gone, "Hey, we're really at war. Do we want to be there?" And maybe they would have rose up and or questioned him more. Although that's very dangerous, right? You end up in jail or dead. Oh yeah, dictator too, right? Apparently, Ukraine Zelensky's the dictator, not Putin, according to Trump now. America, you got a big issue with Trump, like, and Musk, of course. Everyone says Musk is kind of running the show now. I'm gonna dive into that one for a second. Um, for the longest time, Trump was controlled. It could, pretty much everyone could see it, and everyone knew it, and some people talked about it actually, literally on your news stations. Um, Putin had him under his thumb for whatever reason. Maybe he had those videotapes of the P tapes or whatever. But he had control of him. Also, money wise, he bailed Trump out when Trump kept failing in America. He couldn't get any more money from a lot of the Americans. They were just tired of losing money with this guy. So he went outside, and Russia saw a way to influence America. So they basically bought him, and therefore Trump owed this guy, and it's also Putin. You don't. It's not like he just owed any old guy some money, and like when he was building his buildings and he wouldn't pay his contractors and stuff. Poor contractors, some of them shot themselves, literally shot themselves. Committed suicide because they had lost their family's business and they weren't able to pay their employees, and they had breakdowns. And others tried suing him, but of course he just does what he does. He throws more money at courts, buys off more lawyers, delays with his lawyers. He delays and delays and delays until the people just can't afford to put any more money into it themselves, and as a result, they walk away and accept their losses, which is just a ridiculous way for people to think this guy's a great businessman. He's a great crook. Like, if you make a contract with someone and say, hey, build this building, and they build the building and you don't pay them, or you don't pay them, you pay them 5 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar. Come on. Like, what's wrong with you guys? A crook is a crook. And we could go into all of the crooked things he's done because it's a big list. So with Putin, this is a different guy, right? You don't pay him back in whatever means he wants, and which is, he obviously wanted influence in America's decisions, and he wanted insight on people like spies in his country, and sadly, I bet you a bunch of them are dead. Let's say sadly, yes, they're spies, but everyone seems to have spies around the world, right? Everyone wants information on other countries so that they have it all one up on them. But Trump was willing to sell that. That's why he took all that stuff to his, Mar-a-Lago. Well, of course he took it there. And of course there was people that were walking in and getting to review certain boxes or certain information, certain files that he would pass to them. And they were all worth money. So they were all buying those behind the scenes. So, be very interesting in historically down the road where they research this stuff, and it comes up all the stuff he gave away. Um, and talk about not loving your own country. Like, everyone thinks he's half your country thinks he's the guy for, he's their guy. No, he's selling you out, and just going blah blah to what you want to hear, and doing whatever he wants to over here with, look over here where, like, he's just distracting you. And they're talking about it now in the last few days. Oh, he's just throwing so much at there. He's been doing that from day one. He's just perfecting it more now. He's got more crooks around him that are all helping him, and they're all scheming together. But the bastards don't realize this. They're destroying their own country, which will eventually cause, their own children or grandchildren or great grandchildren to pay the price. It's going to get played forward. Sooner or later, when things come to light, it's not going to be too good for their future as a Trump. you know. Um, so, anyways, I'll go back to Putin. He's gonna Putin kills people. So Trump's I'm in trouble now. I'm in for a penny, in for a pound, or in his case, a pounding. And so yeah, he's got himself hooped. So along comes Musk. Now, for Trump, Musk, Putin was considered one of, if not the richest person on the planet. And over these last few years, that mantle's sort of probably been taken by Musk, although it's hard to tell with this guy because he goes up and down billions with a tweet I hear. 28 billion was the last one. He said his tweet cost him, who knows what it cost him in actual dollars. But he is hurting himself as well, and he does fluctuate really quickly. But regardless, it gave Trump somebody else. Then all of a sudden Putin had to hesitate because his control over him was great. But now there's maybe another, as big or maybe bigger backer of Trump now, which has to, make Putin step back and think, okay, well, hang on, I can do all this stuff and ramrod him, but I can also get a little letter slipped to me from Musk saying, hey, I got my Starlink, I got all kinds of things going on, and, you better. Trump's mine now. We're back off, right? And it looks kind of like that's what happened in the last while. But now Trump seems to be flip-flopping again between the two of them, playing them. In some ways, he's playing them both, right? Because he doesn't have much, or he does now, but he didn't have much. He was on the ropes, and now he's the champion. He's the king of the ring now. Although these guys are still there, and you can see Musk is using his influence hugely. You know, and you don't know how many of you saw that little scene with his child in there telling the president to shush. The president sitting behind his desk getting told by a little mini me Musk's kid and told to be quiet. And he just went quiet. He kind of nodded his head and kind of, he was like, oh, what the hell's going on here? But he wasn't much he could do about it. And Musk just stood up over him and kept talking. Yeah, he's an interesting character, Musk. I'm going to have to do a whole thing on him one day. But I need to dive a little deeper into him, to be honest. I just see what I see. And, maybe there's more to it. Probably. But anyways. So, where are we at? Canada, Canada, I respect what you guys have been doing. Actually, I'm gonna throw a compliment to Trudeau. And if you've watched any of my older tapes, I was always questioning. I wasn't sure about him. I mentioned that I'm a switch voter. I vote for whoever I think is, and I tend to lean towards who's running the parties. So provincially, I've pretty much voted for all the parties at some time or other in my life. I'm older, and federally, I've actually probably more from my youth till now voted, I would say, more often conservatives because we don't have our elections that often. And I'm on tape saying it a long time ago. I like Jim O'Flaherty. He was the finance minister under Harper. So for a while there, I supported him. And then, unfortunately, he passed away. A great man passed away. And then Harper retired or got beat. I can't remember. Anyways, he was kind of he'd had enough of himself, from what I could understand at the time back then. That's quite a while ago now. And then I've kind of been looking at the parties, and Trudeau, as I said on earlier tapes, he had a knock against him that wasn't fair to him, and I said it that way. His father annoyed me because when his father was running the country, he tended to came out to BC. I was young then, so I think I was still in my teens, and he was, it influenced me when he gave BC. Back then we had newspapers, and it was a big picture of him leaving on a train, giving us the bird, right? And so I wasn't happy with that, and it was like a strong impression. But you don't want to hold it against a kid, right? So all these years later, Trudeau rises up, and then I saw him before he was literally on the outskirts. He was in the crowd at one of the parliamentary things, and he started swearing or calling out, and I thought, oh, he's not mature enough. Anyway, so for the first while that he was in power, I was, I'll give him a chance, I'll watch him. But at that time, I strategically voted because I was having problems with different parties for different reasons. So it was actually difficult to find someone to vote for. Um, I didn't like Brian or Mulcair, the guy that replaced Leighton, but I liked Leighton, and if sadly he died too, but if he hadn't died, he was going to get my vote in the next time there was an election. And that's NDP. But then, unfortunately, he did, and Mulcair came in, and Mulcair, I'm sure I've said this more than once, he kind of lost me when he did that commercial about, basically, I'm here, and when you're ready for me, I'll be there for you. I kind of like this, like God, kind of sounding like a godly figure where you'll come to your realization you need me. That's like, who is this guy? You know, oh, we need you, we'll care. So that annoyed me. And everyone has their reasons for liking something or not liking something. He rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't my cup of tea or coffee. So, anyways, jump meat I didn't mind. One thing that always worked well for me in the last few years is that when when the Liberals, Trudeau's group, tried to go a little bit towards the people, the masses of people across Canada, Jupmeat would always say, well, for you to get this through, these policies through, you're going to need my party support. We'll support if you give this much more. So he was always, Jupmeat was always getting more Canadians, more stuff. And really, the tax money goes into the country to be dispersed amongst the country and the people. So the more it's dispersed to more people and more causes, happier I am that the money's being used wisely. That's the whole purpose of it. Otherwise, why have taxes? We don't. Again, we're like America was supposed to be. We don't have kings, right? And we elect our people, and if they do a good job, they stay. If they don't, they go. That's the way it should be. So I do like it when it switches parties too. It keeps more people honest, and that's a good thing. Liberals had a thing like with like Jim O'Flaherty. They had their the lady. I'm thinking of her name right now. It'll come to me in a sec. Anyways, it bugs me. I can't remember. She's running for their leadership now. That's even worse that I don't know her name. And got that stupid O'Flaherty name in my head. Anyway, she was finance minister, and then he tried to step her down, and as a result, she quit. And don't blame her. It's like she made him look good for years, a really strong candidate, and he did that to a lady out here, a native lady that was in his early on in his first term. And she stood up to him as well, and so he got rid of her. So like he tends to, I don't know, he likes to. He's quoted as saying many times that he's a feminist and all this, but he actually seems to have a hard time when he gets a strong, powerful lady around him that has a different opinion. He can't seem to handle it because I don't see him firing a lot of men. He doesn't seem to can the men that disagree with him, and I'm sure there are some that disagree with him. So, and that's what you should be. You should be able to have your opinions, and and then get your party as a whole to say, okay, well, we got these differences coming out. Let's decide. What's the percentage that want X, and what's the percentage that wants O, and percentage wins, and whether it's him or not. Because again, he's not supposed to be. Our leaders are supposed to lead the party, but the party still is the party. They make the decisions on a whole. That's how it should be, so that it affects more people around the country, because these people all come from their own districts, their own provinces. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, their own provinces. All right, so all the way back to so the new thing that is ridiculous and has been for a while now is the tariffs. And I know I'm on record as saying where's record or written down? It might be written down somewhere. I don't know if I taped it. with the tariffs is where's the money going? You know, like, and it turns out that I was right in that thought. It's like that seems to be the whole thing for Trump. It's like he gets a quarter for everything that comes into the country, charged to the companies that bring it in, and it goes to the government to help him with his debts. But also he's actually created a tried to create. I don't know if he succeeded. He tried to create a separate entity to disperse it, which so he doesn't. He, like he keeps firing all the people that are checks and balances that are overseeing departments to make sure things are done properly. He's just got rid of a whole bunch of them. I think he kept 2 out of 12 or something. Like, you know, he wants to not have eyes that look after protecting the people's money that comes in. And anyways, so long, like I said, quite a while back, I talked about or wrote about, um, you know, my concern would be where's the money going? Because all he has to do is filter off 1%. 1%, knowing him, would be 5%, maybe even try to move it up to 10%. And if the money is not being really watched where it goes, how many billions is he going to be putting into his own pocket and his friends' pockets? You know, those that are doing it to keep them quiet too. It's atrocious. And then who's paying for it? Well, again, if you bring in something, say, doesn't matter what it is, a widget, and your widget you sell it for $10, and of that $10, you purchased it at $5, and then you have your taxes and your wages and your overhead and stuff. So maybe you make 15-20%. That's your profit, 15-20%. But now you got to pay the government 25% as it comes in the door. You're at a negative. Or if you're not at a negative, maybe you were charging 40%, and so now you're down to 15. But you know you got your own. It's your company, right? You gotta be able to look after your board and you know your investors and stuff too. So it just gets down to where it's not economical, which is I guess his purpose or part of his purpose. I don't think it's his purpose. I think his purpose is to take the money, but you know the little glowy ball he puts over here as well. You know, it costs them so much to bring it in from those guys that they'll those guys will put their company inside our borders and give us the employers, right? You know, our employ our people, so they'll move their factories to us. That's his goal or one of his goals, right? And problem is that takes time. It takes a lot of money, and maybe the people just or maybe they're able to source it from somewhere else where there isn't a tariff. So you know, like China's sending their stuff to Mexico, although now Mexico's being hit with 25% too. But maybe they'll send it to, I don't know, Venezuela, and then it'll come up from Venezuela. It's still different than all the oil embargoes on Russia, and then all they did is had all these ghost ships running around, and everyone's still getting their oil, and because it's a ghost ship, it's all illegal, and they're not very well maintained. So now we got leaks going around the world. Like everything has a roll-off effect. Also, they have to sell it at less and they got to pay those people more because it's all high risk, right? I hear a lot of those tankers aren't even insured. Nobody will insure them, so or they don't want to insure them. It could be both, a bit of both. I imagine they're too cheap to insure them, and it's an old wreck of a ship, and they don't care if one day they lose it. They lose it. That's probably their attitude, which is just terrible for the environment. The huge oil spills potential there. Um, so, and the stuff sells for less, so the people getting it are like, ooh, we're getting it for even less than we should. And it's just all, so there's ways around these stupid tariffs. It's harder for people like us because, Canada does try to run by the book. We're one of those countries that tries to do things in the proper way, in the right way, and, still believes in doing stuff properly and the rule of law and all that. And sadly, a lot of the world's passing us by is just saying, fuck it. Let's just all get ours. Let's just get ours. And with that just get ours attitude, it's not good for any, well, it's not good for poor. It's not good for middle class. Even upper middle class, it's not that great for anymore. It's only really good for the millionaires and billionaires. That's who it sets up them to get more and more. Like I said, off these tariffs, that alone it's going to screw so many businesses, so many people in America, and elsewhere. In America, they're going to be paying more for stuff, and they're going to be like, well, I don't want to pay more. Well, I mean, Trump's on TV. We don't need anything from Canada. What do we need from Canada? We got all this. We got all this money we're giving them. Bullshit. I explained this to my brother in the simplest of terms. Um, Not that he needed it. He already gets all this, but I just happened to be blabbering to him when I talked about it. It says, let me get this as simple as possible for people. That it's like, um, you, you say, let's have a border. Okay, here's the border between Canada and America, and there's a house here on Canada's side, and there's a house here on American side, and by population alone, there's one person, say me, living in this house, and there's 10 people living in that house. All right. So we're going to do the same scenario both ways. All right. I have a manufacturing business where I make beds. Well, both homes are empty when we start. We move into our homes. So I make beds. So I made one bed for me, and these guys want 10 beds for them. They want to have their own bed. They don't want to sleep together. All right, big house, by the way, and which has other ramifications I guess I could get into. So I make 11 beds. I keep one. I sell them 10. All right, let's reverse it. They make beds. They make 11 beds. They ship me one. They keep 10 themselves. Yes, I am not selling them. I am selling them more beds than they are selling me if we had the same business and we lived on the border and homes across. And that goes for the size of the house. Their house would need more bedrooms, right? They would need more bathrooms. They would, you can multiply stuff by population. America has about 350 million people, more or less. I don't know the exact number right now, and we're just over 40. So, like 9 times. So I should have done 9, I guess, instead of 10. So yes, America, you buy more from us than we buy from you, but we don't need. I don't need 10 beds in my house when there's only me. I just don't need it. It wouldn't even fit because I'm living in a much smaller house. Which is what I'd want. I wouldn't want 9 other bedrooms just sitting there, or 8 other bedrooms because I'd be in one of them. Like that whole this thing is a fallacy. That would mean every little country that you deal with has to buy as much as you buy from them. It's ludicrous. It doesn't work that way in the world. Some countries have more population, some countries have less. Some countries have more money to buy more stuff. Some countries have less money and can't afford to import stuff because they can't pay for the basics that they live in. There's a lot of poor countries in the world. No, we're not a poor country, Canada, but we are a small populated country, and we're very spread out. So we actually spend more on per person, say, on roads and highways and bridges, percentage wise, than you guys do, because you've got so many people to pay into the pool. Basic. So one kind of annoys me. It's just the same as what I was talking earlier at the beginning of this about their ornaments. That's a joke too, right? It's in their best interest for wars. It's in their best interest for people to buy, and that's why they're saying, "Oh, we wanted it to go from 2. We want everyone to get up to 2." Now it's 3. Well, 3's not enough. Now 4's not. Now everyone should be paying 5% of the GBD or whatever it is, gross domestic product. So it's like, yeah, of course you want that because you make the most arms, and they'll be buying from you. And then what are we doing though? What does that do for humanity? Oh, well, we have more things to blow up, and we need to use them up because they have a shelf span, plus a technology span to them, where things become kind of obsolete compared to the new stuff that comes around. So, it's a never-ending cycle of making more war material and needing to use it up, and making more war material and needing to use it up. But what does using up war material mean? It means people dying. Basic. It means people dying. If you're sending bombs into an area to chase the people away, you're going to kill some of them, if not a lot of them. So that's where humanity's at. We're like, and the millions of us that really let the 1% of us 1% control us, less than 1%, we're like okay with it because they keep telling us it's okay. This is what we have to do. We got to defend us. America's going on about the borders. The borders. Millions of people invaded. Millions, millions. Fentanyl coming from Mexico. Yeah, that is a big problem. Fentanyl coming from Canada. Well, no, it was like one suitcase full over the course of a whole year, equivalent like 44 pounds or something. Uh, like, are you kidding me? But they'll just say it anyways. We're putting $1 billion more into our border security and helicopters and all that for what? For a show to show America that we're trying. And I'm like, guys, it's not about that. They don't. They just use that as an excuse, and they'll just move along to the next excuse. They want our. They're like with Ukraine. They want our minerals. They want our water. They want our electricity. They want our oil. They just want it. Make Canada the 51st state. How insulting. F you on that one, Trump. Like, you know, someone came back. I saw you kind of get a little miffed. It was the lady from the Green Party. She said, well, why don't we take California? Why don't we take, New York and Vermont, because, so, and he just went, well, really those countries, well, California almost is like a country, they're talking about separating from you guys because you take all their money, you knock them down, you're threatening not to help them with fires, but you expect help from hurricanes in your Florida area. Like, it's a joke. You're a joke. Your idea of how to treat humanity and those lesser than you is ridiculous. It's awful. And those that have less need to start seeing that. Like, why aren't you seeing that? Like, it has to affect you personally before you see it. That's terrible. You should be able to see if your neighbor's not eating. You should be able to see if your neighbor's children don't have shoes on their feet. You should be able to see that and have some empathy. You should be like, hey, we got extra ones in our cupboard. Let's help them out. Hey, let's take over, casserole. Let's not make them feel bad about it. Just say, hey, I got this, made too many casseroles, got carried away. Do you mind? Could you eat one? I hate to see it go to waste. Say it something like that, nice and gentle, and I'll get the dish back off you later. When you get the dish back off them later, maybe have something else to pass along. Oh, I made too much banana cake. I just got to stop cooking so much. Like, do something nice, and not make people feel bad for it either. So the terrorists, I like how we're fighting back. Going right back to way back there. I like how we're fighting back, and I'm disappointed with Alberta again. Like, stop it. It's not your resource. It's Canada's resource, and Canadians from all across Canada have come there and worked those pits for years, and then go back east or back west to live in their homes and be with their family. So they're away from their family for months on time, flying in, flying out, to help make that economy work. It's Canada's economy, though, I'm on record just recently saying about how the pipes and all that. Well, you don't let us run enough pipes across, BC. It's like we should be just allowed to do it. It's part of Canada. It's funny how it's part of Canada when you're going to run pipes across BC, but it's not part of Canada when you want to, sell us out to become part of America so that you can have oil deals with the oil guys down there because you're all joined up and, you're having your parties and staying in your hotels and whining and dining each other. Like, they F you on that one, right? So you can't have it both ways. And as a matter of fact, you don't even get a choice on it. It's part of Canada. Now the pipelines, as I think I came up with, just a quick 2-second solution. So it's obviously needs to be addressed properly. But mine was, run extra pipes to get it there where every property it goes through, people are fine with it. In fact, pay them for that right to go through their farmland or whatever, make sure it's raised up so their animals and their crops can still be grown or whatever. Just keep it away from water, freshwater areas, fishing areas and stuff. Oh, we have to go around, we have to use extra pipes. Yes, you do. But once it's all laid, that's a one-time cost. Once it's all laid and everyone's happy and everyone's maintaining those stretches that they have going through their areas, when it starts coming out the other end, once it's filled, once the tubes are filled, it'll still keep coming out at the same rate as if it had been a shorter route. Yes, you will spend more for that one-time cost, but calculate that into your first 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and get that recouped. Take a percentage towards paying for that extra piping, in math, because that's basically where it is math. We could have made X dollars, and now we're making 90 cents of that X dollars. We're having to use up 10% for 4 or 5 years to pay for the extra piping. Big deal. Do it. Everyone's happy. You created work. No one's upset. Oh. Sometimes we overcomplicate things. And that's just greed. Well, that's, I'm paid to make sure that I maximize. You maximize your profit at the cost of the people that you run through and ruin their water or ruin their farmland, or go through a native reserve that has the rights, and you don't even acknowledge them. You just, we're going to bang that through. And it's funny, when we go the other way east, we've never done that to Quebec. Right? There's provinces on the past Quebec that would like to have those pipes coming to them and giving them secure heat and everything, and helping to support Canada, and they're willing to do it. But we got to go through Quebec. Quebec doesn't want it. So you bang it through BC, but you won't bang it through Quebec. Oh, why? Well, population, votes, right? Politics. They have a big population there. But I think BC's always been pretty good about that kind of stuff. We're doing our own gas, LNG big plants, and we've always been that way with lumber. We put restrictions on those guys, and they had to figure ways around it to appease, but at the same time still make a profit, make some money, and that should have been allowed too. By the way, the industry needs to provide jobs, but it also needs to make a profit, and so I think there's simple solutions like what I just did with the oil piping could be done with lumbering too. Yes, it costs us. We would have made more if we didn't have to, worry about the environment. Oh well, that's too bad, but that's a reality. The environment's here, and people want to go fishing, and people don't want to have contaminated rivers and lakes and stuff that you've used to run your logs down in, but not in a safe good for environment way. That's not the wording I wanted, but I can't think of it right now. I tell you, when you haven't had your morning coffee, it's tough. I guess I should have my coffee first, although I'm having fun with this one, and like I say, I'll probably load it up and not even open it up. So the terrorists, we did the right thing on that, fighting it all, except for that one Province Smith, that lady Smith. What the heck are you doing? Put Canada first, and don't put your province over the rest of Canada. It's we gotta, when you're guys like Ford, who's part of your party, running Ontario, he sees the light. He's like, no. And it's funny, when I look at it, I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but if you do a lot of YouTube videoing on Canada and American relationships, you'll come up a lot with videos on America's actually worried. They're starting to realize, holy shit, Trump was wrong. We do need Canadian stuff. I mean, maybe we won't need some of it in the future, like even our oil. They could probably figure out how to convert their, well, they know how to, but they would could convert to a lot of their places that refine the oil into products. But right now they're set up for heavy crude, which is ours, and they have what is called sweet or whatever. It's kind of a thinner version, I guess, and they're not set up to refine it in a lot of the refineries. So they would have to basically, remake them. It's going to cost them a lot of money, a lot of time, and in the short time, they need ours just to do that. They also keep their cars on the road too, in certain areas, and their lights on in certain areas, places like New York. and or New York State. I don't know which part of New York. Anyways, and so it's like, so he lied about that to you guys too. Oh, we don't need anything, and they're so we're they're taking too much, or we're buying too much from them, and not buying enough from us, and it's just a bunch of rubbish. It's a bunch of rubbish, and now they're all mad because we're starting to look to EU's looking at us and saying, hey, America's unreliable. It's all right. Here's one for you. Here's how I see America these days, and this, I don't think I'm wrong here. This is one of those ones that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek one. America is super politically bipolar. You just don't know what you're going to wake up with in any 4-year term or 2-year term, because they have by-elections. It's like, we got Biden doing the right thing for Ukraine. Now we got Trump in there, and so now it's Russia. If Biden had won, or Kamala had won, everything would have just been the same old, right? And maybe that wouldn't have been that bad right now with all the crazy stuff that's going on. And that's not to say that party over the other party. No, the parties are their leaders, as I said with my way I vote. And right now, the particular leader of GOP has thrown out centuries, I don't know, 80 years of American policies that, you look at all the movies made about Russia being the bad guy. Now Russia's the good guy and Ukraine's the bad guy. Russia goes into Ukraine saying that their soldiers are getting caught going worse than Nazis, because that's what they're told when they go to fight. Zelensky's Jewish, and now and Trump's party is really right wing. They have basically Nazi people in their party. They have a lot of far right type attitudes, and they're supporting far right in Germany during their election, but they didn't win, but they've gained a lot of ground. Sadly, they're talking about having the Nazis come back. So Putin says he's invading a country because he wants to make sure that the Nazis don't take over their country, or have taken over. That's why he's going in there. It's one of his reasons to his soldiers. And he's butting up to Trump, who's along the lines of Nazism. And it doesn't make sense. It's just all a bunch of rubbish. It comes down to, we'll negotiate dividing up Ukraine's resources so we can get rare mineral earth. All these young soldiers and people dying for rich people to get control over resources, which will help make them sustain and increase their riches. That's it. It comes down to dollars, and a lot of people sadly are dying because of it, and their lives are being ruined. But the armed guys are making more arms, more things are blowing up, more reason to make more arms, more reason to hate each other. Let's keep the sheep divided. Let's keep those herds divided, because if they get together, they might realize that they're all just the same. They want to eat their little field of grass and drink some fresh water, clean water, and be warm at night. Oh, terrible what those poor people want. So the tariffs, the oil, standing up on the oil is fantastic. It's the right way to go. It's what's in the YouTube videos that the Americans actually are worried about, and realizing that Donald was wrong about. He's wrong to try to tell us he's just going to take over our country. He's wrong to belittle our leader. He's calling him, what is he calling him, a governor? It's asinine stuff to be doing as a leader of your big country. You've got a guy in there, and the belligerence of him is being echoed by, definitely 30% the MAGA group, but the other 20% of that GOP is also going along with it, which is, if you don't speak up when something's wrong, then you're helping it to continue on. And so that 20% of GOPers that are just going along because it pays them in the pocketbook and it's just easier than getting hassled for standing up. That's sad, because you guys know better. You're in the group that actually knows better, and you're just turning a blind eye. That child across the street with no shoes on the feet, you're just looking at that and saying, oh, I wish I didn't have to see that every day. That's your attitude. That's pretty sad. And the other 50% of you got to start realizing that when somebody's punching you in the nose, giving them a little flick in the ear, if you even do that, isn't going to stop them from punching you in the nose. Yes, you don't want to do it. And it's going to hurt you, internally and mentally to have to stand up because it's not your style. But that's okay. You didn't do it. Like, it wasn't your fault. It was brought on to you. It was forced upon you. And if somebody barged through your own house door and started attacking, say, one of your children, you would find the bravery to stand up and do something about it. If it's happening across the street, you might help because maybe you know that neighbor and you like that neighbor. I wonder if you would if you didn't like the neighbor. And if it's happening down the block, you'll watch it on TV and go, let's change the channel. That's just terrible. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to know about that. Oh, that's not true. Well, you don't want to know. No, you don't. I mean, you're people coming at your January 6th. People coming after your politicians and your parliamentary buildings a few years back there. You guys are half you are okay with accepting that it didn't really happen the way it was happened, even though you saw it. Like, it was covered so much by news, but also by individual people's phones that were there, and it happened, guys. It happened, and for you just to ignore it and pretend it didn't because it's in your benefit, that's sad. Again, put it on yourself. Somebody comes in and does harm to one of your children, physically kills them or rapes them or whatever, then that's not right. And then you're going to go after that person or persons. But when it doesn't happen to you directly, you're going to pretend it didn't happen. Oh, what happened over at the neighbors? Oh, no, come on. They don't wear shoes there. Yeah, they don't wear shoes, but does that mean they should get beat up? Or physically violated? You're lost. Your country is lost. And solution to all this, and it's been the solution forever, is for the masses to unite and say, we want things better for the masses. We just don't want, let's not make arms. Let's not make things that kill each other. All right. Maybe you're gonna have a hard time with knives. Hard to cut a steak with a plastic knife. I get that. But let's well, you can't do that. Kumbaya. Yeah. Kumbaya. Millions and millions and millions of people obviously outnumber the 1%ers, and they're actually scared when someone pokes their head up and says enough, right? Then they try to take that head off quickly. But how much I should Google this. Remember to Google this. I want to Google how much value they figure there is in value in the 1%ers around the world, in the world. And by that I mean, what if, and I don't know, I'll have to Google, like I said, what if that huge wealth that we know is very, very funneled, very, very to the point, not even 1% anymore, it's 0.01 or whatever, point something. And what if that money was all put back into the economies of the world? You can't take our money, that's not fair, that's not rule of law. That's not legal. Yeah, it's not when it's you, right? It's okay for you to do stuff to other people, to millions. That's okay. That's all right. That's the way it is. That's capitalism. That's communism. That's whatever you, religion, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to label to give yourself justification. But I wonder what that money put back into the economy. So maybe, what's the old saying? What's that? I don't know how to say this properly, but there's something along the lines of, well, okay, maybe you kill one person to save 100, but where do you stop? Now do you have to kill 10 to save 1,000? And that philosophy of how does that work? No, okay, but maybe the one percenters, maybe they should be worried, right? Like, come up with a song. Did you kill a billionaire today? No, I just shot him in the leg. Something like that. Yeah, I just made that up. So, like, if they knew by not stopping their super greed, and someone said, "What's super greed?" Well, super greed right now in the States, right? Their budget they're trying to get all the way through. They just got through the Congress, but now it's going to go to the Senate, and it basically is, we're going to cut everything. Things we said we wouldn't cut, like Medicaid, we're going to cut it anyways, because we have to, and we're hiding it. We're trying to pretend we're not cutting it, but we're going to take $880 billion out of there's a certain classification, and in that classification, if you kept the Medicaid out of it, because it falls under that umbrella, all the rest combined would only equal about half of that amount, so maybe 400 billion. They would still be short, but they're going to take 880 billion out of this area. Then they have to take at least half of it out of the Medicaid and cancel every other program. But those other programs, they can't cancel them all 100%, so they actually have to take more out of Medicaid so that some of those things survive. Some of them that they need to survive because they're in their own ridings and stuff like that, the people that are doing the job. So there's those lines of the people there too. Oh no, we're not, because they don't put the word Medicaid. They just put the umbrella departments that control the money for that area. Joke. So they're willing to cancel all that, and then so where's that savings of money going to go? Oh, well, we're still going to do our tax break. We want to renew the tax break for the billionaires. They gave them a huge tax break that in 4 years Trump put the most ever. So I actually think they never talk about this, but I think the president in his 4 years put more debt to the country than any other one by far. But I actually think than anyone else, including people that had 2 terms, and a lot of presidents have had 2 terms. So he actually made more debt in 4 years than any other president, period. But also than they did in 8 years. So they want that again, and they're trying to justify where they're going to find the money to give these guys the tax breaks. Then their money won't be going back in to pay for programs, so they're going to get rid of all the programs so they can still get their tax break. Like, why aren't they even realizing that's not good business for us either? Yes, you will get that money in that term, or you will save that money in that term, but at what cost? How many of your businesses are going to go down? How many of your neighborhoods, you're going to live where you drive down a street and everybody's in bare feet and you're driving around in gold high tops? Like, when are you going to go, when are you ever going to see in that mirror and go, fuck, I think I've taken too much. I think I want my neighbor to, have a casserole. I want their kids to have shoes. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah. My pretty bank account could be a little less pretty, because a lot of it is just being sucked away and hidden away. And on top of that, they got all these fancy accounts, and they got all these offshore accounts. So even the taxes they pay are still less than even the percentage they're supposed to be paying now. They're already scamming it. And on top of that, they're getting more, and they're taking from the masses more. And Americans, you're so late to well, some of you realize, but you didn't shout loud enough. And that's because you're that, they'll understand. But they don't. Greed's a disease, and that's something I've said a bunch of times. It's got to hopefully become my quote one day. People go, so this old Canadian guy kept saying greed's a disease, and he was right. It's a disease. They're not going to self-correct. That's their entity for themselves. You know, they're you know, there's never enough when that's your whole purpose is to keep making and growing your power and growing your wealth. That's your thing. So you just keep doing it. And somebody has to stop you and go, whoa, this is an intervention. Look around you. Look what you're doing so that you have this, you know, what was that guy? McDuck? The guy that was always diving into the cartoon. You know, Daffy Duck's dad or whatever. I can't remember who he was. McDuck. Maybe he was Daffy. No, I don't think he was Daffy Duck. That's a wrong one. McDuck or something. Anyways, he was always about wealth and just growing and growing and growing. And I think there's one cartoon where he's in and it fills right up to the point that he's basically suffocating. Well, they're suffocating others. And yeah. So if I solve the world's problems, I'm almost an hour in. Imagine it's going to take forever to load up. All right, so again, the tariffs Canada stick to doing it on the oil. Do it. Do it on the hydro. Do it. That's going to put pressure. That's going to frustrate a lot of Americans, yes. And hopefully they'll realize Trump was full of shit because he can't fix it. He can't just fix it. He doesn't, we don't need it. We can just do it our own. No. And rightly so. They can't transfer it over. Eventually do it on their own, which is great for us that we're going to Europe now with our product, and China and Japan. Like, yeah, bipolar America is not trustworthy. Every 4 years or every 8 years, we're going to have them flip-flop on their policies. You know, like that Keystone pipeline was going to get built, and then Biden came in and he canceled it. Now Trump's back in. He's saying he's going to do it again because they want to have control of our oil. And Alberta will go, well, that's the simplest one. Let's just do that. We'll make more money. And we'll give them a deal because we've been giving a deal on oil all this time too. We haven't been selling at market price to them. We've been giving them a break, and they're still complaining about us. It's like, F you. Like, you know, but they're just saying, well, we did it because it was easier, right? You just run the pipe across the border, let them do the rest of the piping. Actually, I think we even paid for the piping going down further. So you can't trust them. Then you need to have other markets, and then you can put pressure on them. And right now, with what they're doing to our whole country, and 25% across the board, and steel and aluminum have already been done. You know, he said, I'll give you a month, and then a week later he did those anyways. His word means nothing. It really means nothing. And you know, it's nothing to do with fentanyl. It's nothing to do with migrants, millions of migrants going around. It's a joke. To get into our country to go to his country, you basically got to fly in or something, right? And it's not the best route. And that's why so many of them from South America come straight up through Mexico. And, you know, there was an industry there for it. They were making money, bringing them to the border and smuggling them across, and also making them take drugs when they did it, so that they could, you know, do that under dual industry of theirs. Don't get me wrong, I love Mexico. As a matter of fact, it's my second favorite country. Canada first, Mexico, and then it was always America. But right now, I'm going to park that. You're my number 3 favorite country in the world, but I'm parking that until this gets resolved one way or another that I find satisfactory. You know, for one thing, stop insulting us. We've been a great neighbor and a great support system for you guys. So F you that you can think you can just badmouth us. And you've seen, it takes a lot to rile us up, but we're not like a lot of the passive Americans. When we do get riled up, we're riled up, and you've riled us up, all but one province. And even then, there's lots of people in that province that aren't in agreement. So hopefully Smith's getting some pushback on that, because she's about greed. She's like, well, we're all about our own money, and maybe we'll just go to the States. Yeah. Well, good luck with that, Smith. You're just ruining that province if it happens that way for years to come and the children years to come, because Americans will do what they do. Suddenly you'll have guns on every street. Suddenly you'll have unfair tax systems on every. You won't have good medical. Like there's a lot of reasons to be in Canada. And by the way, you're in Canada, so if you really want to move to the States, move to the States. But you don't get to move the province with you. F you. We'll fight you on that one. Okay, I'll take back the F you. That's a little strong for Smith, but smarten up. Yeah. So by doing the tariffs that we're going to do, we do it now. Why it matters before they have time to really fix their situation and their hydro situations, and then hopefully enough people say, okay, Trump, you did lie. You said we don't need any of this stuff. We'd be fine without it, and it turns out that's not true, at least in the short term. So thanks a lot for messing up our lives with your lies. That kind of obvious, they like punches in the nose, that obvious slap in their face to wake them up has to happen. Otherwise we're rolling over, and no way are we rolling over. America is trying to do what, if Russia can be succeeding in Ukraine, and that's why they switched sides, probably Trump has this, because he wants to go after things like Panama and Greenland. He's put people in power that see it that way, see supporting him that way. So he's rallying up the whole world to start taking things. Might makes right kind of attitude. And you think about how much they're in debt in the world. One thing they've done during the whole time they're in debt is they've just kept building their army, their navy, the air force. And why? Well, now they want to use it. And we've just all watched them do this and thought nothing of it. But there was always a potential when they have all the guns to say, well, we have all the guns, but we're broke ass for not, keeping our factories working and shipping. And it was the rich guys that shipped them overseas because they could get cheaper labor to build their cars and stuff to bring back. And now they're like, oh, we should tariff them. Their stuff's cheaper. But a lot of them, including Trump, have set up, and Elon Musk have set up Elon in China big time. So like they set themselves up to make money cheaper and to sell it to American people. And then they're lying to the American people, saying, oh, it's unfair. You guys, we should have the businesses. But they're the actual people that shipped them overseas because it was beneficial to them, to their bottom line. If the 99% people of the world said no to the 1%, as I said I want to do my Google search, what would all that money do back in the economies of the world? Would it solve most, if not all, the problems? And if we cancel building bombs to blow each other up, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, wouldn't it be nice? I'm over here in Canada, in BC. I've been very lucky to have been born here. That's just fluke of life, right? My ancestors did whatever they did to eventually get here and settle here. And, and I benefited, and my children have benefited, and my grandchildren will benefit. Because it's one of the better places right now anyways to live in the world. Things change all the time, but right now it's one of the better places. But it doesn't mean that I don't see what's going on in Ukraine. I don't see what's going on in the Gaza Strip, Syria before that, Afghanistan before that, Iraq before that, Egypt for a little weekend, whatever that one was. What's the one? Libya. And then, going back even further, all the other bigger wars, your Koreans, your Vietnams, it's not like I haven't paid attention all my life. It's like there's tragedy always going on around the world. And some people are getting so rich on it, and some people are having, death upon themselves or their family members, and living in poverty because of it, and having the worst, the saddest times for having been born. And we're on the planet, we're born, we live X amount of years. It's just sad how we've allowed, and we have allowed it, And well, it's hard to stand up to him. Yes, it is, and it is terrible. Guys like McGilney or whatever, the guy that was, when I heard he was going back to Russia, I said, "What's he doing? Don't do that. Don't be stupid." Like, he goes back thinking that he'll be able to run against Putin and stand up, and that's the right thing to do. It wasn't the right thing to do for him. Not only did he die, but a lot of the will of the people died along with him, because they had someone that they knew was better than Putin to run their country. And yes, he was out of the country right now trying to stay alive. That's where he should have stayed. Why he developed bigger and bigger following, to the point when Putin left one day, he would step in, because he seemed to have it. I don't know if there's others there that have it too, but he seemed to have what it takes to for humanity's sake. And then goes back and gets thrown in jail from some trumped up charges, and then after a while he ends up dead, because that's what Putin does. He doesn't piss around with people that might that make him look bad and are better than him for the masses of people. He just simply gets them killed, which is why Trump was afraid of him and doing everything he wanted. And I don't know. I do know. Things will never improve unless people say no. Do the lunch one. You don't get my lunch money. You don't get to take my sneakers. You punch me in the nose, I'm punching you back. The only thing is that you're a big bully, okay, but I have 10 friends to your, a million friends to your one. Because really, the population around the planet is so huge that you literally, what did I get told once? I was living and working in Asia, and I got told this line. I talked about it was to do with India. I think it was in Singapore time. India and China and their problems and stuff, and there was a discussion going on. And I said, well, China's got a lot of arms and all that. The Indian guy spoke up. He goes, they're afraid of us. We would just run over them. What he was referring to is they just had this huge population, and he figures that if they really had to, they just basically swarm them. And I don't know if that would work or not, but I mean, the thought behind it was, the numbers were there for them. China's got a lot of numbers too, of course. Yeah, back then I think even China had more. But the big guy was just basically saying we're brave enough that we're gonna, if that ever came to be, it wouldn't go well for them either. And the 1%ers, they buy their, they have their militaries, and they get their political bot positions where they control them. That's the other thing, by the way, military people. You gotta at some point say, no, I'm not gonna, be shooting what basically is my uncles and aunts and nieces and cousins and stuff. Because basically, when you start firing on your own people, that's what you're doing. You're killing someone's uncle, aunts, dads, daughters. So you actually have to say no. No, I'm not going to do it. It might be why there's more pressure on Canada than Mexico. He talks about us being a 51st state, but he doesn't say much about Mexico. And I figure it's because, well, they've sold them so many bloody guns down there, and they've had actually some of their best trained soldiers down there helping with the cartels to control that particular cartel. They're being hired mercenaries, and it wouldn't be an easy fight. And also that would be half of it. And the other half of it is that a lot of the people that have moved into the States over the years have come from Mexico, and a lot of them, to make a living, to get settled and get started, have joined into the Armies, Navies, and Air Force. So there's a lot of Mexicans that are in their actual army apparatus, and they still love their old home country. A lot of them send money home because they have their mums and their aunts and their uncles that didn't move up. They like Mexico, and they make the big paycheck and they send it down south. So they have, what I'm saying is, those people down south still have influence on their kids, and so America's probably looked at the numbers and gone, this could turn on us. We could have people within our own ranks that just say, no, you're not taking over my homeland, my parents' homeland. And then all of a sudden they're within them with the weapons and the knowledge. So Canada doesn't have that with America. we got a few people who have fought with them, alongside them, trained with them, and gone into wars with them. But we don't actually we stay in our own armies. We don't actually join their armies per se. I'm not saying there's not one or two, not even 2%. Not a handful of people that haven't done it, but not it's nothing that's gonna make it scary for them. So that might be why they're sort of looking at us as the soft target. And look at all the soft targets they're picking on. Greenland. Come on, you already got a base there, and they have like 40,000 people in the country, and Panama, and you're acting gutless, right? You want to take over the world, which you shouldn't want to do, but that seems to be your attitude. Well, then man up and go after some of these big countries that you're going to have to eventually face anyways. And you can't take over the world without eventually taking them over. And but that was sick too, by the way. I don't want that to happen. All right, I have rambled on, and I'm not even sure what I want to talk about anymore, so I think I'm going to let this go. I don't know if I'll watch it, but maybe I'll just upload it and be brave. All right, keep fighting Canada, keep fighting the world. Glad we're getting closer to Europe. Europe, wonderful. Glad to see a lot of you guys are standing up. Ukraine, I love you guys. You guys have more than paid a price. It's ridiculous. And it's too bad Trump didn't stay doing what Biden was doing, because Putin's definitely on the ropes. With Finland and Sweden joining up, I think he was gonna lose, and you've given him an olive branch, Trump, and I wish you hadn't. I wish Musk wasn't okay with that too, because if he had said to you don't do it, you probably wouldn't have. Maybe it's to continue the battle. Maybe it's to pretend that you want it to end, but if it continues, there's lots of money still being made. And you still got your eyeballs on Ukraine's resources because you're an asshole. You just want to take from people. Why don't you just work a business deal with them? Why don't you send people to build factories there and help employ these people? And then maybe, not maybe, then you arrange, obviously in the contract, that you get a percentage of the product or whatever's right. Why don't you do it the business way? What's this? I'll just take it, or you just give it to me. You owe it to me. And stop lying about the numbers. It's like 60% to 40%. Europeans have contributed more than you, and you make it sound like they haven't contributed anything, and they're getting all their money back, and you're not getting yours back, and wah. And you just fucking lie like that. And come on, MAGA people, some of you are like interesting people, tailgate type people would be fun ones to hang out with and have a beer with. Come on, you're not stupid about your own lives. You're not stupid about what people do around you in your neighborhoods. Why are you allowing yourself to be so stupid with your leader? Like, come on. He's not honest to you guys. He's not fair to you guys. He's not coming through for you guys. Oh, well, he freed a bunch of us. No, he freed you because he actually needs you still out there. And he needs your friends out there. And he needs your clubs out there. Because if this goes south, he needs some protection. And you guys are obviously, well, we'll protect him. He's our leader. But, when it didn't look like he was getting back in, he didn't say a whole lot about doing too much for you guys other than blah, 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 blah. All right. What's that old one I grew up with? Peace. Peace be with you. Cheers. Bye.